Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads and must converse is the channel. Today, I'm going to do the third part of 2666 by Roberto Bolano. This is the part about fate. Now, it works as it might sound, the part about fate and talking about fate as far as destiny, but really, it is about a character named Oscar Fate. Now, that is not his real name. His real name is Quincy Williams, and it's not defined why he takes on this name of Oscar Fate, but he is someone who is a journalist, and so maybe it's just kind of a pen name, a writing name, a pseudonym like that. And he is an African American man from Harlem, New York. Very, very different from our previous characters that we've met in this book. And he is very much not an intellectual well, he's not an academic, that's for sure. He's not an academic, and he's not an intellectual the ways that are all of our previous characters that we've met in this are. In part three, the part about fate, there is very little by way of literary name dropping and any kind of literary theme that we're following. It, Oscar Fate is not. Oscar Fate is a very practical guy, and I saw in Oscar Fate one of the most practical characters that we have come in contact with so far. The most practical character that we've come in contact with so far in the book. And so, what does he get into? What's one thing strange about the beginning of this section here is it starts off being told in retrospect. We have like a paragraph where it's Oscar talking, saying, "Where did it all begin?" And he's talking about a past time, and we are dropped right into the time that his mother died, and his mother dies, and she he's very like unaffected by it. It's kind of strikes you as strange, but perhaps she was just very old and it's kind of an expected death, right? But Oscar, uh aside from being kind of uh separated from the death of his mother in the way that he is acting, it seems, is physically affected by it. Throughout this whole section, which takes place over a couple of weeks time, Oscar is sick. Oscar starts throwing up and can't hold anything down. Always, his stomach is hurting, and he just he is sick. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do anything physically, like, as far as eating and drinking well in this whole section. And I think that there is something to be said there. Oscar is given a job, to go and interview this very well-known ex Black Panther in Detroit, I believe. So he's in Detroit, and he meets up with this Black Panther named Seaman. Seamen is the last name. Now this is a character that's modeled after an actual Black Panther who, was very well known and actually wrote a book about cooking. And we follow Fate as he follows Seaman in a day of his life, and it's Sunday, and he goes to this black church and gives a message, is what he does. And his message is not very spiritual or religious. It is actually very practical. He's talking about living a good life and looking out for yourself, that nobody's going to look out for you, what usefulness means, things like that, how to eat well. He gives a number of recipes. He's talking about the stars, the stars at night and this awe-inspiring kind of uh, look at reality of what we're in, but from a practical, from an individual standpoint, and then stars, celebrities, and stuff like that, and how they are very much removed and don't know about your life, and you don't know about theirs. This kind of thing, and it is very cool. I love this section, to tell you the truth. This section is very, very well written, and it's great to see Bolano go into a character like this and really flex that he can write anybody, even though he might be very removed from the actual type of person that this is. Oscar Fate is is just a is just a joy to read about. There is a twist, a twist of fate maybe, that Oscar, after he's done with his interview, gets a call from the paper that he writes for. Uh, Black Dawn is the name of it, and he is sent down to Santa Teresa, Mexico, which, as we know, is where our critics went to see if they can locate Arcamboldi, and where Amalfitano lives with his daughter Rosa and is going mad. And he is sent down to this city in Mexico to cover a boxing match. Well, he's not a sports writer, right? He gets sent down there because the sports writer has died in an accident, I believe a car accident. So there's another death. There's two deaths in the first part of this section, both of them without a they're not murders. There's no perpetrator and there's no victim besides just being we they die. So he takes the job. Of course, he's going to do what he's told. He's a writer. I mean, he's going to do it. So he goes down there, and it is very, very interesting. Him, fate is out of his element. He's in a, a culture covering something that he doesn't really care about, and he doesn't even really know what to do. But he's a great writer. He's a writer, and he can write a story about whatever for the paper and things like that, right? So he's covering this boxing match. It's an American boxer that's going down to Santa Teresa and fighting a Mexican boxer down there on their turf. Nobody, you get a sense that nobody really expects the Mexican boxer to win, but there is a lot of hype, and they would love it if he did win. So you root for the underdog. Am I right? While they're down there, fate is coming into contact, and we are coming into contact as an outsider, like fate is, with the horrific murders, thousands over the course of 5 to 10 years, maybe, in Santa Teresa, Mexico, which is on the border of Mexico on the Pacific side, and but the border between United States and Mexico. And he's hearing about these murders and how everybody knows about the murders. I mean, they are prolific. It is scary, it is horrifying. And yet these people are keeping on going on with their lives during the day. And there's this kind of dichotomy between night and day, and uh what the life is like for a resident of Santa Teresa in the daytime or in the nighttime, and how just how messed up it is. He becomes intrigued by this, and he calls the paper and saying, "Hey, I want to cover this. This is the real story in Santa Teresa. Give me some more time. Let me do some research, and I'll come back with a real story, something that is real journalism here, not just covering this fight. I mean, I'll do the fight too, but let's do it." And they don't care. They just don't care. They're like, "Well, I mean, is there any black people involved?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Okay, well, get your butt back to New York. We're not going to pay for you to stay down there." That kind of thing. Now there's commentary on in that kind of way made up, right? But he meets a, a journalist that is covering the murders down there, and it's a female journalist who is under the guise of being a sports journalist down there to cover the fight, yet is actually down there to cover these murders. And they develop a friendship, and he decides to accompany her to question the prime suspect who is in custody right now. Along with that, one of the most wild and crazy parts. I mean, this book is crazy. This book is crazy. It is very, very different from any other literature that I have read of these big maximalist books. I wouldn't call it a maximalist fiction. It is very much bringing us somewhere. It is like taking us broadly, and now it's honing us in on something horrific, and the horrificness is the next part, part four, the part about the crimes in Santa Teresa. But Fate meets up with Rosa Amalfitano, and Rosa Amalfitano is a bit of a wild ass. She is hanging out with these Americans. They're partying, and partying hard in a hotel and things like this. And Fate is tagging along as being like the only black man around, right? And he's Fate's just a cool guy. I mean, I see Fate as just a cool guy, and very, like I said, very practical with how he deals with his life. He's not any frills. He's not mysterious in any kind of way. He's just a dude. And so he ends up saving Rosa Amalfitano from a very bad situation. It seems there's kind of some foreboding there, and you don't know, but you kind of get this sense that it might be a bad situation. And then afterwards, it is saying, "Well, what's going on? Do you think that these guys that are in there?" He's talking to Amalfitano, Rosa Amalfitano's dad, the Amalfitano from part two. And he goes, "Well, do you think that they're mixed up in the murders in any kind of way?" And Amalfitano says, "Everybody's mixed up in the murders in some kind of way." All right. I mean, but we know from part two that he is a little bit off his rocker, right? So you don't know whether or not to take that with a grain of salt, or whether that is a perceptive kind of statement. The end of part three, the part about Fate, is very, very, very strong. It is awesome. And when it gets there, it gets there, and they actually go to the prison to question the prime suspect in these murders, and that's where we end. Right when they get there to start questioning the reporter, Fate, and Rosa. When they are there to question this prime suspect, that's when the part ends. So Bolano is really leading us deep into uh, who knows what, who knows what. But I know before we get to the end there, there is waiting through a lot of darkness. Part four is brutal, completely brutal. I've already started it. So that will be the next part that I cover. Hope you enjoyed this book too. Catch you on the next one. Bye bye.